Good morning, everyone. This is my watch list for Thursday, April 16th. All right, so what's been happening? We have seen a major squeeze over the past couple of days. Hedge fund short exposure was at all-time highs, and this is part of the reason why we're squeezing. I mean, smart money, hedge funds, people like me, we're all thinking that this was going to be a dead cat bounce and the market was going to fail back here last week, all right? However, this was not the case. So the market has been squeezing. Hedge funds have been having to cover. People like me have been having to cover, right? And so this is what causes these squeezes. And actually, a fact, this was the largest 11-day rally on the S&P after a 10% correction in history, right? The fastest bounce back in history, okay, after a 10% drop. So that's an interesting fact. You know, we can't feel bad. Yesterday I got caught in shorts. I can't feel bad about that. You know, I can't feel bad that the one time in history that we create the fastest rally ever, I get caught in shorts. You know, as long as you follow your plan and you stop out, then there's nothing wrong with taking some losses, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you're not taking crazy losses. You know, you're not holding and hoping and adding and holding and hoping and adding, right? Take your position, take your loss, move on to the next trade, okay? Anyway, so what's happening today with SPY? We are gapping up slightly, just a little bit, but we are now over all-time highs. All-time highs is 698. This is also SPX 7000, right? SPX 7000 is previous all-time high, and you see we closed above that yesterday, okay? Now, I think a rug pull is coming. You know, at this point, I'm not going to try to time it. Like, we need to wait for failures on SPY and QQQ, okay? If we get the failure back below 698, we can look for shorts. But until that happens, you know, let it keep squeezing, right? Let it keep squeezing until it eventually tops out. And then we can look for reversals when there's actual weakness. But I don't want to keep shorting into supply when supply is just not being respected at all, okay? So SPY, you know, if we get the failure of 698, I'll look for shorts on that. If not, then I'm not going to touch this anymore, okay? My main watch yesterday was actually Tesla, and you see Tesla was insane. Brett and I talked about this on the pre-market webinar, you know, above 368 for calls. Another admin was watching shorts on this, so that's why we kind of steered clear and shifted our focus onto other names. But this wound up being a crazy trade, right? This 368 breakout was the trade of the session. I mean, these contracts exploded, all right? But anyway, let's shift back to this. So QQQ, all right, we went over SPY. QQQ also broke all-time high, right? All-time high was back here from October of 2025, and it was at 638. And this morning, we are at 638.50. So we're barely above all-time high, but we still are at all-time highs on the Qs, okay? What can we watch here? Again, like, we can look for failures. 638 was the previous all-time high. If we get below 638, it was also the previous session high. Can look for failures, but I really don't want to, I don't feel like getting caught in another squeeze, okay? 630 was where I was looking to short the Qs yesterday. And this actually worked off the open. You would have just had to take it off the open though, right? That first, within the first 10 minutes of the session, if you went short on the Qs at 630, it made a $2 move down to 628, this one red candle, right? And those shorts worked. But the reload shorts here at 630, you see we got the nice wick again off that supply, but then this candle right here squeezed everybody out. At 9:55 when we closed back above 630, that was the squeeze candle, and this proceeded to turn into yet another intraday squeeze, okay? So 630, it worked, but then it didn't work. And I got caught in the second of the retest, right? And that's when I got stopped out, all right? But anyway, we could look for either failures of 638 or we could look for a bounce back at 630. I don't know if I'll touch SPY or QQQ today. It really depends what I'm seeing, but I really just don't feel like getting caught in another trap, right? I don't want to get caught in another trap. That 698 reject actually wound up being really nice though. Take a look here. You know, it made at least a $2.50 move, right? From 698 down to 695.60, right? About a $2 move there. But the 698 reject wound up working well. But then again, the market just rallied and recovered, okay? So, you know, there's a lot of crazy, this isn't really strength in my opinion. It's just shorts covering, right? Because a lot of people were short, a lot of hedge funds were short, a lot of people like me were short, and that's what's causing the squeeze. That short exposure is being forced to cover, okay? So again, like if we get back below 698, previous all-time high, we can look for shorts there, but I may not focus on that today, okay? Let's take a look at some individuals. Apple ripped. We've been talking about this 262 level for weeks. It broke 262 off in the morning. It actually wound up selling, and then we reclaimed 262 here, like 1050, and proceeded to rip all the way into the close into 266. So what can we watch on this today? We can watch for a move back into 262 for longs. I don't know if that'll happen. It's already at 268. But at some point, either today, tomorrow, or next week, when we retest 262, I really like this level for a bounce for longs, okay? AMD is actually starting to show signs of exhaustion. I was watching the tape yesterday, and we'll look at the 5-minute and I'll show you. So as this was trying to create new highs, you can see it pushed out highs one time from the open, but then after that, it struggled to form new highs the rest of the session. There was a bit of a squeeze into the close, but you can see the aggressive selling was starting to come in around the afternoon, middle of the day yesterday, right? So I actually am watching this for a short. If we get back on the previous day high, I like the 257 short on AMD. We look at the daily, you can see super overextended. It's now pushing into supply. 260 is supply. We tapped 260 in the pre-market. I like this for short if we get under 257. It might break pre-market, but this is definitely on watch for me. Amazon closed the session red. I don't really see anything here. This is also trading at supply, right? 250, 248 is supply. And I don't see anything on Amazon. I likely won't trade Amazon today, all right? Let's take a look at some others. Netflix went all the way to 200-day, right? We said 106, 106.50, and that was the 200-day SMA. This is where you want to be cautious, right? I'll turn on the 200-day SMA. This is where you want to be cautious now, all right? This is going to play games around this 200-day, all right? This may be just a closed candle above, and then tomorrow, and then today we sell back below, but I think they're going to play games here. I would be cautious being long or short on Netflix right here, okay? NVIDIA, same thing as AMD. I think chips are starting to show exhaustion into supply. AMD is starting to tick red pre-market. NVIDIA as well, right? NVIDIA is red pre-market. It had the same exhaustion yesterday around the same time as AMD, right? Once we hit that 200 level, it just sold back down into 196, reclaimed a little bit in the afternoon, but still I was watching the tape on both these names and the selling pressure is starting to come in. So, I don't want to be the first to short, but if we get under previous session low, 196 on NVIDIA, I do like shorts on this, and I do like the shorts on AMD, okay? PLTR, I don't see anything here, all right? This is a big bounce off the 125, 126 level I mentioned a couple weeks ago, right? I said if we get back to 125, 126, this is a bounce. Aristotle caught a nice swing on this. You see the bullish pen bar off the 125 level. That was big, all right? But at this point, it's already made the move. You long into demand and you short into supply. Right now, it's made the move, and right now we're just in the middle of both. So what do you do here? You can look for shorts if it gets back up here into supply, 156, right? But right now we're just in the middle. We're in the middle of supply and demand. So what can you do? Nothing, all right? Tesla, yeah, like I said yesterday, this was really our main watch, but unfortunately we did not signal this. I still like this for longs though. If we pull back at this point, we can kind of just draw a fib, right? We can draw a fib from yesterday's low to today's pre-market high, right? And we can look for a fib bounce around 376. That's the 61.8. You can see there was also some support there yesterday after ripping. So 376, if we get that on Tesla, we can look for potential longs there. That would be a big move down. I don't know if that'll happen, all right? But the move has pretty much already been made, right? We're back into the 200-day SMA right here. I would say, let's take the the 400 breakout, but that's literally the 200-day SMA, right? That's too risky at this point. We'd have to look for pullback longs on Tesla. Maybe this hourly structure here at like 383 could potentially be another bounce area, but we just really have to watch the price action and see what's happening. I actually wouldn't mind that 383, that's a nice hourly level. 383 is something we can watch, right? This was also a big level back here, if you guys remember. 383, yeah, we can watch that. We can watch that on Tesla. 383 or 376. Those can be the two levels that we watch for a bounce today. This was the strongest name yesterday. Closed up 7.6%. So there is potential there. All right, we can watch both those levels for a potential bounce today. All right. So that's my watch for the session. Let's see what happens. Hope you all have a nice day.